Welcome back to Newsmaker Live, and of course this evening is VAT evening. No, we're not implementing VAT from this evening. We're waiting until September 1st like everybody else, but we have with us Ms. Adria Sonson. She is the coordinator of the VAT implementation project, and she has been working with her team to ensure that St. Lucia is prepared, the business community, the public is prepared for the implementation on September 1st as well. She is leading the charge to educate the public about what VAT is and what effect it will have on consumption. Now, I smiled a long time ago in the program when you were talking about, you know, the tax, the VAT being added to the consumption tax on merchandise that is already on island, and that will be on island between now, or has been here, but will be there until September 1st. I am almost sure that businesses will put on major sales that would benefit the public because they need to get rid of the merchandise before VAT kicks in, and they have to put another 15% on merchandise probably that is not even moving. I mean, how can consumers, let's look at that positive spin, how can consumers benefit in this interim period before the implementation of VAT?
Well, like every consumer, I like a sale. I love sale. Like every other consumer, I love a sale. So you need to decide on whether you actually need to buy that product. And say to yourself, well, okay, if I actually do need to, perhaps I should benefit from the sale. So again, it's an individual decision. If it's worth your while, it's something that you want to, I say bravo to you and go on ahead and get it.
Yeah. Well, I too love a sale, you know, especially if it's something I need. Well, we have a call. Good evening, caller. You are first for the evening. Please go ahead with your contribution. Okay, I can't hear you very clearly. Can you speak up a bit, please?
Can hardly hear you. Hello?
Hello?
Can hardly hear you. I just have a question for the young lady about the taxes. Why doesn't the government want to pay us our tax refunds? Why do they want to keep the money out of our pocket? That's my question.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that's a good question. I'm wearing my inland revenue hat now.
Well, you said you wanted to talk taxes. So
okay, in terms of tax refund, and okay, start the phone. Somebody's phone is making some noise, but I'll tell you what. One of the recommendation is that VAT be not just a replacement tax for some of the taxes that we have existing, but it's one of the first steps into what we call tax reform. Now, the current income tax regime, there are some issues with it. And these issues lead to some of the deficiencies that we have, especially with regards to refunds.
Right.
Currently, when you file an income tax return, you're entitled to a number of allowances and deductions. I think for St. Lucia, as many as 26. Okay? Some of them have an upper limit and some of them don't. Okay? So when you file your return, in most cases, persons will have what we call the refund. The taxes are due to them. They paid in excess. Now, the processing of the returns, because of all of these allowances and deductions, is a longer process than we think is best. A lot of things need to be verified. The documentation attached to the returns must be in sync with what is claimed for, and there are a lot of issues with regards to that. So the processing of the return it takes a period of time, longer than we really want it to. So we're hoping that one of the things that can happen is a number of allowances and deductions that we are entitled to. At some point in time, they will be reduced, minimized if anything. And so the processing of returns will take a shorter period of time, one. And another thing that works against us at this point in time is that when it comes to refunds, the refunds are what we call an allocation. An amount is allocated to inland revenue to pay refunds for the year.
I see.
So we pay on the basis of the amount that is allocated to us and so on. But I want to go back to that question again. Because in terms of the refunds, the taxpayers have to be informed. They have to be aware, and we've been preaching that, perhaps they have not heard, that the amount of refund that you're entitled to, you could actually minimize that by using what is called the tax code. So say for instance, you're entitled to child allowance for 5 children. You could get your code to be amended or adjusted to take that into consideration. If you're entitled to spouse allowance, you can get that amended or brought into the code. And most, if not all, of the allowances and deductions you're entitled to, you could bring that into your code. Now, the code is a mechanism whereby when you apply the code to the income, all right, it will help you determine the tax, the correct amount of tax that should be paid. A lot of our taxpayers are stubborn. You keep telling them, you need to change your code. The taxpayers I meet almost every year. I have a refund, I'm saying, but what refund you have? And they're talking about things like $1,000. To me, you want to minimize. The minute you start going beyond $1,000 every year, then there's a problem. You need to come in, your circumstances have changed, and you need to change your tax code. All right? And people have to appreciate, because you heard the stories that, okay, my refund is to pay my car insurance, my house insurance, and to do what for me to travel. So they have no intention of changing the code. But every year after year, they come in after you. I want my refund. I want my refund. You have the option. You can minimize it as much as possible.
Now I want to ask you a question on that, but we have a call on the line. Go ahead, caller. Please go ahead with your question. Hello?
Perhaps we lost that caller.
I think we lost that caller. But on the refunds, though, as you mentioned, people say they have no intention of changing the code because it's like a kind of savings for them. It might be a situation where some people are not as disciplined, so they said, okay,
but it's not a saving, It's not a saving because, when you look at it, the time value of money, when you factor all of that in, but it's better that you take your money and put it into your credit union.
Right. Well, that's a point because they're saying that if Inland Revenue pays back on a timely basis, then at least it could work in the
But you see, if you minimize the refund, rather than pay one person $5,000, I could pay 50 persons $100 and let them go on their way. But when one person keeps having a refund year after year for $5,000, it means that I now have to deal with a chunk of $5,000 that goes. But if everybody has something like about $100 and so on, I could service.
It's easy to deal with.
So people, we need to minimize the refunds. You need to change your tax code. If your circumstances change, you need to visit the Inland Revenue Department and change your tax code.
Good evening, caller. Please go ahead. Thanks for holding.
Come 1st of September.
Okay, can you hear? Can you speak a little louder, please, caller?
Hi, good night.
Good night.
From what I understand, the items currently on the market have consumption tax.
Some of them.
Come 1st of September, will VAT be added onto those current items?
Yes, we indicated that. Those that have attracted the consumption tax already, and if they on the shelves, if they are still in inventory, they will also attract the 15%. But we're hoping that these things will not stay on until forever. In terms of some businesses, for instance, the supermarket, the movement of inventory is within, let's say, about a 6 months period. It could be longer, but the movement of inventory is, in fact, inventory is ever moving.
Right.
Whereas for some businesses, the movement of inventory is for a longer period. So you expect the 15%, you expect these goods to be on the shelf for a period longer than perhaps 6 months. Okay? So, yes, the reality is come September 1, some goods that are already on our shelves that have attracted the consumption tax will attract the VAT.
Now, I have a question here, whether the tax, the VAT on businesses would be based on the invoices or the receipts. I'm not sure.
Now remember, the VAT is not a tax on business, it's a tax on consumption.
Right.
So, and the VAT system calls for, in fact, the invoice, the tax invoice is an integral part of the VAT system.
Okay.
When businesses trade under the VAT system, they are what we call the registered businesses. They are the ones who are authorized to charge VAT. So if they are selling what is called a taxable item, they are authorized to charge VAT. Okay? And when they buy, let's say they buy from other registered businesses that are authorized to charge VAT, they would most likely pay VAT. So the invoice is very important. Under the VAT system, there's what is called the input VAT and the output VAT. Okay? So when as a registered business you buy taxable supplies, you pay input VAT.
Okay.
And you can reclaim that at the end of the month. Okay? When you sell taxable goods, you charge VAT, and you're expected to remit that to the Inland Revenue Department. So
on a monthly basis as well.
On a monthly basis, but you pay your return, and your payment is due 21 days. 21 days after the month for which the transaction occurred. So, say for instance, your purchasing and your sale occurred in the month of January. Your VAT return, which is a statement that shows the taxes that you paid and the taxes that you charge, is due by the 21st of the following month, which is February.
Okay. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Yeah, good night, sir.
Good night.
So what are we talking about VAT? I have a little experience. I realize for VAT to come to St. Lucia, but people have to get a lot of work in St. Lucia. So what I would say is that with that thing there, with the credit union have to be involved with every worker in St. Lucia. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I did not totally follow. I'm not sure that you...
Well, he said with VAT being implemented, people have to get work. And that he made a point about the credit unions being involved and so on. But in terms of the first issue he raised, again, certainly the Minister of Finance addressed the issue with regards to employment creation,
right,
and in his budget address. So he's expecting, perhaps not directly as a result of that implementation, to create some additional jobs and some additional programs that will, bring in some jobs for the perhaps those at the lower economic brackets. And so it's good when we have people working. They will contribute, they will pay their taxes.
So we're hoping to see a multiplier effect as a result of more VAT revenue coming into the system, or more revenue as a result of VAT.
Well, we're expecting more revenue, and then if anything, the government will use that to ensure that its programs are carried out, are undertaken, and some of the programs articulated by the Minister of Finance has been job creation programs. So I'm not an economist, but you expect to see from the intakes that social capital programs will be implemented.
Okay, we have a call on the line, but we're due for break, so let's take this call very quickly and then we'll go to break. Go ahead, caller. Good evening. Okay, we seem not to have that call. We'll take a break right now on Newsmaker Live. We're speaking here with Ms. Adria Sonson, the coordinator of the VAT implementation project. When we come back, we'll continue our discussion and also continue taking your calls. Stay with us.